Hello everyone, post-edit Sandry here. Well, pre-video post-edit, I guess. In editing this video of my review of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, I forgot to mention how the flight model feels. That is how it feels to fly the aircraft on my side of the screen. If you do research into X-Plane, which is my preferred simulator, they use blade theory, which essentially they take every air surfaceable, I guess you could call it, surface of an aircraft, whether it be a rotor wing or a wing or part of the fuselage. They break it down to tiny pieces and they run equations as to what the airspeed is and the wind speed and the weather and all this and that, and how that would affect flight characteristics of an airframe. Microsoft Flight Simulator, I believe they use their own AI-built flight model, I think. And between the two, I feel like X-Plane has a little bit more of a realistic feel than Microsoft, or I'm just going to refer to it as Flight Simulator, or FS2020 here. Turbulence, however, that's where FS2020 has the upper hand. Can't talk today as usual. It just has more of a realistic shaking effect on the aircrafts in game, whereas X-Plane has more of a realistic feel as to what it does at what aircrafts do at different speed. And to put that into the perspective of my review, which you're about to see here, if someone was holding a gun to my head and said, yeah, either have to buy X-Plane 11 or FS2020 right now or else I'm going to kill you, which one are you getting? I'm going to go with X-Plane 11 only because the community has already built up. There's plenty of mods like the Zebo mod. There's plenty of payware aircraft. And for $60 plus, I know the payware aircraft, it is definitely worth it, worth the investment. FS2020 has some bugs that still have to be worked out and some features that hopefully, and I presume, are being worked on right now, like shared cockpit, the FMC and McDo, and the 3 airliners that you get with the game for $120 right now. Parts of their functionalities are missing, so that's part of the reason I would go with X-Plane 11 right now. I would probably wait a year if I were actually going to buy FS2020. So with that, I don't want to pre-bias my viewers here, but we'll go ahead and watch my upcoming review and make your decision for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, yes, I know, I said I wasn't going to do it, and I didn't. My friend bought me this. He bought his own version of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Loved it so much and wanted me to do a joint cockpit session with him so I could teach him some tricks and tips and tricks in the Steam cockpit, which currently, as of August 2020, is not worth it. He bought me, and he was kind enough to get me the deluxe version of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. We are currently loading into Bridgeport, Sikorsky Memorial Airport, my local general aviation, I can't talk there, I always slur my words. I talk too fast, and that's the result of that. Airport in the Beechcraft Bonanza. First of all, I have 2 positives and then a lot of negatives. First of all, the textures are amazing. Granted, I'm running on medium settings, and that's what GeForce Experience, NVIDIA GeForce Experience, their software, has recommended for me using an RTX 2060. Keep in mind that's 6 gigabytes of DDR5 VRAM, I think, or DDR4 VRAM, whatever it is. It's a 2060 from It's Gigabyte's RTX 2060. So I click ready to fly here. We'll jump into the cockpit, and you can see the texture. Well, it's a little bit choppy. I'm using my mouse because the controls, I'll show you. This is my point of view hat on the X56 from Logitech. It's pretty much analogous. It's pretty fast. It's not very accurate. Then we have this little side stick off the side, which is like a small axis. Actually, I had to reverse the whatchamacallit, the axis for pitch and yaw, or pitch and yaw. The stick inputs, that's all the way left, that's all the way right. It's a little bit snappy, which I think is a bit unrealistic, but it does add a sense of one-to-one-ness. Although, right there's, I'm not even moving my stick very much. That is towards the end of my stick throw. That's not even maxed out on my stick. Well, no, that is. But right there, that's not even, that's like a millimeter of movement towards the end. Otherwise, it is a very close sense of one-to-one-ness. Another complaint. Trim. That is elevator trim. You see it moving there. I'm just clicking it. If I go ahead and press and hold trim, it's progressive. I do not like that. I do not. You can see it's slow. If I want a lot of trim, it's unpredictable because I could tap all I want and get small movements. If I want a small movement but very fast, I gotta wait a few seconds because it's a tap, then it moves, and then it gets faster, and then it gets too much. Same thing with Aileron Trim. You can see it's barely moving here. Let me put my mouse. This is another thing I hate. I cannot turn off these labels. If I click it over, you can see it's moving in tenths for every click, or 1/100th of a degree. So there's 0.19, 0.18, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And if I hold it, it moves in tenths. That is the only trim that makes sense. And if you click it, it moves by half a degree. So you absolutely need to bind that to a control in your settings. And the settings menu is very complex in terms of setting up my yoke. So first of all, I'll say this: it's a great game, not a very good simulator, and I say that for a number of reasons. Number one, the one-to-one-ness is a bit weird. The trim is also a bit weird, and the other thing that annoys me is there is no setting to turn off these stupid labels. Granted, this is probably the only label I'd like to see stay, but if I'm looking at, I don't know, these buttons from afar, because I'm trying to fly, let's say I'm trying to fly VFR and I need to change my, hang on, let me just turn on the batteries here. And turn on this one. If I'm trying to change my transponder, I can see right there, XPDR. Sorry, right there. Okay, maybe not. That's weird. Ah, yes. So down here, you don't get any labels on the G1000. There's simulation of the G1000 from Garmin. However, the Autopilot and the comm panel, I can barely read these. Okay. In X-Plane, if I were to get a payware of the Baron here, or Bonanza rather, I could clearly see these labels. And then if I hover way too long, like let's say, do I want to press COM 1? That label is massive. Same thing with the Autopilot, right? If I'm looking for Autopilot, first of all, the cursor is way too big. So I gotta zoom in and then find it. Other complaints. What other complaints do I have? The buildings, while they are fantastic, that is ultra. Hang on, let me show you my graphic settings here. Buildings, ultra. That is the highest. Train vector detail. Also the highest. Granted, I have anti-aliasing turned down a little bit by 1. Objects level of detail. I don't want to go higher than that, or else I'm afraid I could not record proper frames. These are settings given to me, aside from 3 of them, given to me by NVIDIA software, GeForce Experience. I have an RTX 2060. I probably already said that, but those are my graphic settings. Pause the video if you'd like to see them. I have my PC specs and my about page on the channel. Going back to discard because I don't want to change my settings. Resume. What other buildings can I show? Oh yeah, the keyboard controls are also wacky. I still don't know how to make this disappear. That's one thing analogous to X-Plane. The only thing that I know for sure is F. You do get preset views, so by pressing Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And F just returns you to this default view here. I know in X-Plane I can set my own views. I'm not sure how to do that in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I also dislike, what else? That's an external view. Normally I know that is like Shift 4 in X-Plane 11. I have to press End. And to get back into the cockpit, normally I just press W or F in X-Plane 11. I gotta press End again, then press F. I don't know if I like that. Zoom, bit weird as well. Otherwise, oops, End. Otherwise, the aircraft systems are pretty good. Aside from changing, it took me an hour or so to set up my controls on my HUD task, whereas with X-Plane it took me like 15 minutes. So there's that going for you. I had to turn down the number of ground vehicles at these airports. Otherwise, I was just getting stuff like that. Follow me cars or baggage trucks or fuel trucks that just drive through me. Mind you, I'm at a real parking space. What else can I complain about? The trees I have at medium, just because there's a lot of them. I'm pretty sure if I turn anti-aliasing up one more notch, we'd see less fuzziness. The buildings, there's more on the other side of these trees here. I'll show you in a second when we're in the air. But you can see a shack right there. This tower at this field is not that massive at all. But otherwise, the textures of the aircraft are pretty decent. So that's supporting my claim of good game, not so much of a great simulator. Because in X-Plane, from this viewing distance, I can easily read what all these things are. I can barely make out the word flood, panel, taxi, and landing there. In X-Plane, I can. So without a doubt, or without further ado, let's go ahead and start up. Oh yeah, ATC is also a bit of a pain, because you gotta wait a little bit, but that's no different than it is in X-Plane. I do like this little pop-down menu, I will say that. You can change your camera, but again, it's very complex. There's 5... This is just way too confusing, especially if you're flying, you know? And then the checklist, yeah, that's... Some aircraft are more detailed, like the Cessna, very more detailed than this. yeah, so without let's go ahead and start the aircraft. Pull the parking brake. Let's go. Mixture full rich. Oh, props gonna be full rich. There we go. And then mixture full rich. Throttle all the way open. Make sure that is on. Our beacon light. And then turn that on. Just so we can see better. Let's turn on our flood panel lights. And we are looking at fuel flow right there. We'll wait until that is peaked out, just like that. And if you don't believe me, that's high. There you go. And then we'll bring our throttle back and then open it up 1/2 inch. We leave these two forward, and we'll flip the magneto starter over to start. And there we go. We have an engine that's live, and then we're gonna throttle back until we are between 1100 and 1000 RPM. I like to say lower, right there. Perfect. Let's make sure our trim is, alright, so that's nose up, so I gotta go nose down. Eventually it'll say neutral takeoff. There's the green. I can barely see it from this viewing distance. Yeah, I'll zoom in so we can see. It's a little pitch nose up, so I'm just gonna go nose down a little bit. Or not. There's neutral takeoff. Although I like to be on a little bit of the upside, so I'll keep bumping it down until it says neutral takeoff, which is about, should be there. There. Okay. Let's go ahead and throw on our nav lights, strobe lights, pitot heat. Avionics master can come on, so we can turn on the other Garmin 1000s. Cowl Flaps, I like to set these around 25-ish. There is no set value in the checklist at all, rather. Fuel, that's set to left. Can't open the doors, can't open the windows. Flaps, we get a nice long runway, so I'm not going to be using flaps today. Transponder, let's turn that on. We are squawking VFR. Hit back, and that is that. If this thing ever boots up, oops. There we go. Normally, in real life, you can change this to tracked up. We're forced to stick with north up, and it doesn't even display weather, unfortunately. Well, it does, it's just very different. You can also change to a dedicated weather radar. Declutter, normally you'd get declutter 1, 2, 3 or whatever. The range is a bit wonky as well. I leave it at like 5 nautical. Again, looking at the autopilot / flight director panel is very confusing to look at if you're trying to fly from here and you're like, oh well, I need to nose up my autopilot. You have to zoom all the way in just to make sure you're on the right one, or just look at the oversized thing here. Alright, that's another thing I don't like about Flight Simulator 2020. Currently, as of right now, August 2020, there is no shared cockpit. There should be one. I'm not sure if it's in the works or not. Who knows? Pushbacks are a bit wonky, as weird as well. I'm not aware of any add-ons just yet to make pushbacks a little bit better. But otherwise, it's either straight back, turn left, and if you say turn left, it means nose right, and then right means nose left. And the turning is also a bit too sharp, and it's also a bit too fast as well. So with that, I'm going to release the parking brake here. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, the brakes. Let's release the parking brake here. The brakes, I'll show you once we're moving. You can probably kind of see it down there. They are progressive as well. So I'm just going to turn towards the left here. apply some power, not too much, because else we will lose our turning capability just like that. So we gotta apply the brakes, and it's not just like a small touch of brakes like it is in X-Plane. It is full on until you're basically locking up the wheels. So we'll just go ahead and taxi. I'm not gonna be listening to the ATIS or anything like that. The ATC is a bit annoying, especially if you're in general aviation here. Solely because of the fact that I tried using it, and the max climb rate of this thing is around like 800 feet per minute, and I was constantly being yelled at every 2 minutes by the AI to increase my climb rate. If I did so, I would have stalled out, and I would have probably smashed my computer. Anyways, let's get on this runway here. We'll just take off from here on runway 6, and then we'll do a right turn over Stratford. As you can see, turning is a bit weird as well. Let's go and press F, reset our view here, and apply full throttle. There we go. A little bit of forward pressure, so we have some effectiveness of steering as the speeds get higher and higher. We'll rotate around 80 or so knots. There's 70. And 80, go ahead and rotate up. Climbing, gears coming up. We'll climb to 1,000 feet. Monitoring our engine panel there. A little bit hard to see, but it looks like we're at 29 manifold pressure and 2,700 RPM. Trying to maintain around 100, between 95 and 100 knots in terms of our climb. That's another thing, I'm not sure if it's realistic or not, the prop speed for the Bonanza here, the single engine Beechcraft in the game. It likes to overspeed for some reason. I don't think that's how it works in real life. So again, that was all hand flying. Let's go ahead and trim the bird out.
Don't sink, don't sink, don't sink, don't sink.
Trying to get my trim. It's a little bit complicated with, pardon my dog barking in the background. It's a bit complicated with the weird trim. Go and pull back our throttle a little bit. And I'll make our left turn out over Stratford. We'll put the neighborhood of Lordship, I guess, off to our left. Again, we're rising up. I'm trying to get the bird trimmed out as possible as I can, but it's a little bit hard with that progressive trim. Alright, pulling back the power. Trying to get trim correct. Spamming the trim up toggle and down toggles, not the greatest thing to be doing. Overflying the airport, we can see some buildings. That's supposed to be a VOR dome, or dish rather. It's not the best of simulations, but you're still going down, even though I trimmed us way up. The street buildings, houses of town, you can see are a little bit wonky. Keep in mind, I have buildings and terrain level of detail set to maximum. I mean, like, I assume that's a tree. That house has trees growing into it. I mean, it's close to Google Street View, but it's not perfect, you know. They all look, they all look kind of sad and weird in a bit. Okay, looking back, let's add in some power and then start climbing back up. Yeah, I guess I'll find some bridges to go look out. I'll do some low-level flying of the Housatonic River. Try and get trim. It's hard without a consistent trim level. It's progressive. It starts just by a little bit of toggle. You can see that's just me tapping it. If I tap it more, it gets a little bit faster. If I hold it, it's slow and then comes faster and then really fast, and we don't want to go into that, so let's worry about that. So here's I-95. This is Route 1. Down here, that smaller drawbridge. That is also a bridge. It looks more or less like a dam, which it's not in real life. We have the railway bridge on the other side. So in terms of, I mean, most of the buildings are looking okay, but they're still jaggedy. Now we're in the town of Milford by the looks of it. The water detail I have set to low, but it still looks pretty good for low. Trees I have set to medium. Actually, no, I think I have them set high. They could be a little bit better. Let's see, what's this? This is Route 15 up ahead. Again, this is also another bridge, not whatever that is. And then we should have, on the other side, we should have Sikorsky, their main manufacturing plant in Stratford, which for the most part looks okay. I still have the old UTC logo there. They're actually owned by Lockheed now. And the runway, I guess, it looks okay. Then we have the, now we're into Shelton a little bit. Go away, cursor. Let's also retrim ourselves here. Find the plane a little bit. There's some boats for example. They look kind of goofy as well. That's supposed to be a boatyard, I guess. Golf course off to our right hand side there. And yeah, that's pretty much low level flying. For the climb up, it's actually really good from higher altitude.
500.
I mean, if you're flying one of the three airliners, I presume there's going to be more released at a later date. Hopefully we also get updates that fix the FMCs in the airliners, because those are broken as well. I was trying to help my friend out with a flight, and we were using SimBrief, and SimBrief was showing up in the main planning screen. However, the FMCs were like, nope, we're going to use a different route that we made up in our own imagination, which was weird. We also couldn't change flap settings for takeoff. We couldn't change some routes. We can add waypoints, stuff like that. And the map screen, especially in the 787, which is what we were trying to figure out, didn't want to work at all. Maybe there's some settings or buttons I'm not aware of. I was using the Magnite 787 from X-Plane as a resource, if you will, to figure out what buttons to push in the Microsoft Flight Simulator. So, in terms of general aviation, you have a lot of aircraft. I don't think it's really worth getting the deluxe version to get the airliners at this point. There's still a bit of development that needs to happen, but when you're flying at higher altitudes, like 5,000 feet and above, the level of terrain detail looks pretty good. except when you're up close and personal with them. So, with that, I'll shut up and do my outro here and leave you with the landing. With that, I hope this has convinced you to buy or not to buy. I'm impartial at this point of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. With that, I am Aviation Trim. Fly safe.